and we're continuing in our series called The Technology of Freedom. And I'm here with Byron Katie, who has formulated a system called The Work that can lead to profound happiness. Katie, the work, you say, has to do with three kinds of business. Your business, my business, and God's business. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Can we talk about other people's business?
Yeah. The work is actually 4 questions and a turnaround. But one of the things that I noticed 12 years ago was, the way I tell it is, in the entire universe, I only saw 3 kinds of business, and that narrowed it down a lot. And then I noticed that each time I was uncomfortable, that I was mentally in someone else's business. One of my big things to be like the earthquake was going to happen. Well, that is God's business. Or war is a terrible thing. Well, that is God's business. And I was always mentally in my husband's business. I was always mentally in, some torture somewhere.
Yes.
But then each time I would notice that. And so it would, as I noticed, it would bring me back into my business. And then I noticed, after being in my business for a while, that I didn't have any business either. So, yeah, that even my business is always being done for me, actually. But simply said, as long as I'm mentally out of your business or God's business, nature's business, then I experience freedom. And I found out that people like to be with me a lot more now.
Right, because I notice, like with myself, I give advice a lot.
Yeah.
And really, like you say in the work, I should live my own advice.
Yes, that's the turnaround. If I think my husband should understand me and hear me, I need to turn it around. I need to understand him and hear him. And I need to understand me and hear me. Can I hear me wanting to give him all of this advice about how he should listen? It doesn't sound, it doesn't experience like happiness to me. He should listen to me. He should understand me. Actually, I experience it as violence. He should do exactly as he does. That's unconditional love.
And you say we always need to get to a place of unconditional love.
Well, it's our nature. So it's not something wonderful that we're going to, it's just ourselves. But a story would keep us from that experience.
Like, let's say, for example,
uninvestigated story.
An uninvestigated story.
Yeah.
I have to take little moments of pause because everything is so profound.
Yeah. The investigation is the 4 questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm in a marriage and my husband just makes me so upset. He just doesn't understand me. He just doesn't know how to make me happy.
Yes.
I'm in the wrong place.
Yes. So I would ask you, is it true he's supposed to understand you?
No.
That's, all the evidence is there for that. So yeah,
so I can stop blaming people.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can take responsibility for myself.
Yes. How do you treat him when you hold the belief that he's supposed to understand you? How do you treat him? How do you live with him when you hold that story? Yeah. Some of us a lifetime, I like to say, just really living our whole life to get that understanding. Our whole life to get that understanding, to be understood. I say, if I had a prayer, it would be, God, spare me from the desire of wanting love or understanding or appreciation. Very painful. I like to say, how do you crawl on your belly to get those things? How do you sell yourself? How do you masquerade? And that's a meditation. The work actually is a meditation. That is a question that can take people in for quite a while. Quite a while. Some people can't remember when they have not been masquerading for some kind of understanding or love. So I like to go on with it and say, who would you be without the story that you need is understanding? Who would you be if you never had that story again? And I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying give it up. I'm not saying let go of it. I'm not saying the work doesn't ever do that. It's simply 4 questions. It's just, who would you be if you never had that story again? Then I like to ask, can you see a reason to drop the story? Can you see a reason to keep the story? So the work really is, it puts people into the direct experience of cause and effect. And then a miraculous thing happens. It's like a child, they put their hand on a flame and they don't do it again, it burns. So when we can see the cause and effect of a story, we're like children. When that story arises, it is as though we're not attached to it in the same way. We move away from it a little closer, or we may experience it as humor. My husband should understand me, and what used to throw us into depression literally can throw us into laughter and love.
And I marry myself. That's what I really do. I marry myself, and I take responsibility for my own life.
Yes.
And then no one can really hurt you.
Absolutely.
Because you're in your truth, you're in your power, and really, if you say something that I don't like, I go, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, maybe there's something to look at, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm not like wounded and destroyed by it.
Yes. So I could say, if it doesn't hurt, don't bother with the investigation of the work. Just have a happy, wonderful life. That's, you know, people say, I want enlightenment. I want enlightenment. I say, can you just be happy now? Can you, start with that. Can you just be happy now? And isn't that why people want enlightenment anyway, is to just to get on the other side of suffering, and the ultimate control is freedom.
Well, we think it's money in this society, Katie. We think it's money. And then we're poor from the inside.
Yeah. I see that the wealthy are living in poverty, and the people in poverty can be much happier in some cases than the ones with the money. Money has nothing to do one way or the other with anything. And, that's not something that you can tell people. It sounds like a great, just one more story. And the truth is, when people have money, their concepts keep them from really any appreciation that might come around it that's profound. And people who don't have money keep themselves in the same position. So it has nothing to do with money.
It sort of keeps them, things and money, keep people from looking at themselves. So this work really, you say, brings you back to yourself.
Yes, there's nowhere else to go. All 4 questions is just take people into themselves, and the work, it's an experience. It's an experience.
Let's talk about, Katie, you personally, because it's an inspiring story. And I cannot believe where you have come from. I cannot believe that you were in a halfway house, 200 pounds, depressed, insane, screaming. People used to call you killer, you said, killer, because they were afraid of you. Is that true?
I don't remember the killer thing, but what I heard a year later from some people that were there is that they were afraid of me, and they were afraid that I might hurt them. Or possibly kill them. Yeah, so they booby-trapped my little attic staircase from that fear. And I really saw myself as kind, so that was quite a mystery. Yeah, everything I did, it was only for my children's best good. It was only for my husband's best good. Only for their own good. And that was really my thinking. I thought I was sacrificing my whole life for their happiness. And their experience was opposite that.
I bet.
Like the women in the halfway house.
Okay, so how did you get from the bed, which you said you didn't sleep on because you didn't feel worthy enough to sleep on the bed, to going all over the world? You just came back from Europe. You speak to thousands and thousands of people. How did you get from the bed to this?
The work became alive inside of me. I was on the floor one morning, and I opened my eyes, and I could see that everything was upside down, everything. It was a radical 180-degree shift. And then the 4 questions were alive in me, not even in words, but I began to live them, and then people began to ask, and I just always say yes, because I didn't have a story that told me why not. Mm-hmm. And so it began to move me all over the world, and to this day I just continue to say yes, and it's a simple way to live. People might see it as a very complex way to live and very busy, and it's not my experience. Mm-hmm. It's just a very simple way to live.